Mahathir Mohamad is on year to be the planet's senior selected lead at 92, following a upheaval win in Malaysia's bitter-fought poll. The ex-PM came out of resignation and defected to the opposition to get on his A-time protégé Najib Razak, surrounded by corrupt practices concoction. His historical win has overthrown the Barisan Nasional, BN, coalition, that has been in force with autonomy in 1957. Exultant Mahathir supporters imbued the gateway as the win became precise. Mr. Najib has told he will take the sentence of the human beings, but correspondents say a sleek transfer to force is not a taking into account following such a main policy coup. No solitary side during the coalition won a most, so formally it now rests in Malaysia's PSAR to solve who forms a by the government. Affirmative, affirmative, I am yet live, Mr. Mahathir said a news story meeting in the previous several hours of Thursday. He told his coalition would not search vengeance but would recover the guideline of act. He as well announced, to cheers amongst his supporters, how down there would be a couple days social feast, addition, yet down there will be no holidays for the winners. The formal results showed the opposition Pakatan Harapan, the Association of Expect, provided 113 of the 222 seats creature disputed, consisting several that include just always been detained by the government. BN took 79 seats. Growing residing expenses and length-running concoction of corrupt practices weighed hard on lot voters and saw them rind off of Mr. Najib and his one-day unshakable coalition. I sense how in the changing we perhaps can see things superior in the next, Suva Selvan, a 48-year-old physician, said AFP. Ours expect for the next is a superior by the government, equitable, complementary and joint. Mr. Mahathir was main secretary, at the chief of the BN coalition, for 22 years, of 1981 before he stepped downward in 2003. By his management, Malaysia became one of the Asiatic Tigers, the team of countries that saw their economies extend quickly in the 1990s. But he was an authoritative drawing who utilized contentious safety laws to castle up his policy opponents. Largest shamefully his vice main secretary, Anwar Ibrahim, was dismissed and charged of corrupt practices and buggery, and after concluded on the last accusation, while he named for economical and policy reforms. Mr. Mahathir was as well a coach to Mr. Najib, who became main secretary in 2008. But Mr. Najib has been pursued by corrupt practices concoction. He has been charged of pocketing several $700 million of the One Malaysia Growth Berhad, a country invest foundation he set up. He has furiously rejected all concoction and been purified by Malaysia authorities, but the foundation is yet creature studied by several countries. Mr. Najib has been charged of stuffy Malaysia investigations by removal key officials of their position. Such concoction led to Mr. Mahathir's surprise party breach in 2016 of Barisan Nasional to exceed the Pakatan Harapan, proverb he was confused to be related in a side how is seen as support corrupt practices. Later in January, he told he would run for the management once again. But in spite his historical gain, ambiguity hangs above his possession. Preliminary to his gain, he designed to manage for 2 years up walking downward. He pledged he would organize a forgiveness for Anwar, cleaning the way for him to be de-elected and get the top work. The night Malaysia has roused to a completely new position, the at first transmission of force in its story, although to a really known lead. But down there are enormous unknowns. How gladly will Barisan Nasional, the coalition that has, in different forms, run the nation with autonomy and embedded himself in all areas of management, abandon force? How so will a various coalition, joined substantially by their wish to displace Najib Razak, job along in by the government? How swimmingly will the schedule to profit of forgiveness for concluded opposition lead Anwar Ibrahim, and later for Mr. Mahathir to brush the premiership to him during 2 years, in fact begin? And how will they consider Mr. Najib, and his top spending woman, both charged of avarice and corrupt practices? Following all the exaltation above and spectacular act of disobedience by Malaysia voters, down there is amount of challenges to person. Front of the poll, down there were concoction how vote would not be complementary and equitable. The by the government newly gone a law redrawing poll boundaries, guideline to accusations how it had gerrymandered constituencies to provide they were imbued by Malaysian Muslim, historically BN supporters. A contentious counterfeit news story law was as well newly entered, that critics say could be utilized by the authorities to muffle furnace disagreement. Mr. Mahathir is oneself creature studied by how law following approving how his aircraft had been sabotaged. And in the days up the survey, poll reformation team Versa 2.0 charged the poll committee, EC, of repeated election crimes, consisting irregularities in mail vote and lack to shoot corpse human beings of the election coil. The by the government had insisted the poll would be complementary and equitable, in Mr. Najib proverb how the EC acted to the nice of all.